public hearing.
Okay. Sue?
No comments.
Thank you. And now Sam.
Yes, no concerns. I'm just curious, besides some landscape maintenance items, are there any other site improvements you're looking to make to this parcel?
I think with the limited space or the green space that we have, all we could really do is on the side of the building, which is on Grandy, just north of Grandy. That's the only space that we can do some landscaping.
Okay, and all the pavement and parking? is
So
all
the
in
front
good
is
order?
pure pavement, and then the other is the public right-of-way, the green space.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Addie, you've been with us many times,
Yes.
and it's nice to see you're back again.
Thank you.
A question, because of the kind of the dynamic of what is close to this property, are you planning on charging market rent for your apartments?
I would charge market rent. I would charge below market rent. Yes.
Okay. And the tenants you have in there now, they're comfortable, everything's
Yeah, no complaints.
okay?
They've been in since probably February, March, once we received approval.
Okay. All right, very good. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the public hearing for public comment. Addie, if you want to take a quick seat.
Yes, thank you.
And if anyone would like to say anything, please come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And once you're done, when you take your seat again, then we are asking that you remain quiet while you're back in your seat. Well, if there are any questions, we'll collect what those questions might be so staff can address it, and then we'll go from there. So I'm opening public hearing.
Good evening. I'm Dennis Brield. I live on Kimball Street, down Grandy and to the right. And I'm all for affordable housing, but that area is not equipped to handle children. There's more stuff going on over there, and Carter's got liver pills. So I was going to write out some remarks, see if I could. So I took the phone number off of that sign that you showed here a few minutes ago, 248-257-2816. A couple days ago, I called that number. Call cannot be completed as dialed. Please try again. So I've tried every day since then. That's why I'm here today. I couldn't get through. So maybe there's other people that couldn't get through either. I go by that area twice a day. I work part-time at a golf course. I go by 2 times a day, 6 days a week, and sometimes more than that. But in the parking lot, usually when I go in the morning, there's 6 cars there. When I come home, usually there's 3, 4. When I came down here tonight, there was 5. There's the way they park, there's really not any room for hardly any more. And I was going to ask if they owned the lot to the north, and they don't. But the first house north of there, and I know it hasn't got anything to do with the rezoning, they got chickens and lots of rats. I mentioned the activities that go on there. There's not any grass except maybe along the very edge of the building and between the sidewalk and the street. In the front, there isn't any. There's no place for children that I can see to play unless they're going to rent it to senior citizens. I don't think they ought to be doing that. There's a security gate right in the middle of the front of the building. I went by there a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if these people was moving out. They had a trailer load of furniture on Grandy Street, and they had that gate opened. And I assume that somebody's going to call that a security gate. That gate was put up there to protect a vending machine back when Mr. Dell and Mrs. Dell owned the drugstore. So the next day I went over there, great big chain and a great big master padlock on it. And I would assume that that might be a way to get out of the building in case of a fire. I don't know. I've never been upstairs in it. I've been in the store hundreds of times.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. I'm Karen Plants. I'm from Hope Shelters at 249 Baldwin, so it'd be 4 lots to the north. I think this is fabulous. We need more housing, especially below market in the neighborhood. Prior to being occupied, and I work at a homeless shelter, I get it. A lot of transients, even our guests, would hang out on the front stoop. So I think it being an occupied building increases the neighborhood. Just a point of question, sorry. The building across the street is a former church. It's now Baldwin Center.
I apologize.
He's not impacting a religious house of worship is the only point I was trying to make. But we stand all in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Okay, it looks like we're all set. I'm closing public hearing. First to staff, is there any comments you wanted to make in regards to what our first resident had mentioned about parking and gates locked and anything of that
So there was an incorrect phone number on that, but that has been fixed within our staff. That's been previously identified. That's been fixed on the public hearing notices. I do apologize to you for calling the incorrect number, but that is not a valid city number, and we apologize for that. No, so what was provided to the applicant from the city had the incorrect number. It was on a limited amount, and we apologize for that.
And I guess in regards to parking, the applicant is proposing 2 bedrooms per unit, which requires 7 spaces. I've done a site inspection. I haven't mapped it out myself, but it can fit those 7 spaces.
Okay. And then the comment about the gate, is that something that is, I'm assuming there's
Our applicant has context for that.
Oh, please come back to the podium. Thank you.
In response to your concern about the gate, we have 4 egress on the main floor. It's a non-functioning door. It's been drywalled over. And then there's 4 egress for the 2 units upstairs, 2 from the front, 2 from the rear. So you have more than ample egress that are all with illuminated signs. Just wanted to let you know.
Oh, thank you. And then there is the license to be the landlord?
Correct.
You've gotten that for both units? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Michael, any questions now?
I just briefly want to say I'm pleased that the building can get a new lease on life, have a new generation. It was a staple in the community, definitely an anchor in that neighborhood, and the Dell name, I hope will be able to carry on in different ways. If there's an opportunity in the future, or if you want to reference the building as the Dell building, I mean, they were pillars of the community and that neighborhood in particular, so much so that a community center was even named for him. So I just want to highlight that for you. I think that it would not be an impediment or harmful. It's mainly residential along this stretch of Baldwin, so I don't think it would pose a asymmetrical or something that feels out of place. It has a former use of being a commercial entity that may have over the generations had residential above, but maybe not always. Maybe it was some offices and storage for the commercial operation. But I'm grateful for the property owner and the representative from Hope Warming Centers for being here to provide your respective perspectives and for being a part of the Pontiac community for so long. I'd be curious to know, sir, how long have you owned your property? Since 1986. All right, very good. Thank you for being a part of Pontiac. I think that I've had all my questions addressed and answered, and I'm glad that the staff has caught the information for corrected contact info, so that way that doesn't have to happen again, and no one could be inconvenienced. But I'm glad that someone's showing this building some love. Baldwin Avenue deserves love and another infusion of resources, attention, redevelopment And so I'm glad this building has another chance at being useful and viable for a generation or a lot of generations to come.
Thank you, Michael. Tim?
No questions?
Nothing? Christopher, any questions?
Oh, just a comment, and thank you for staying with us and developing that property. We have a lot of good housing, good basic housing structures that hopefully we can start to develop them and redevelop them and make them worthwhile. So thank you for staying with us. I guess the other question, next steps, I guess we're going to recommend approval of the rezoning. And if that's approved, the site plan for this, does that, do we have to look at that, or would that be something
It would be administrative. This would not become before Planning Commission.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, one other question. You're at 3 units that you want to go to? The plan is to go to, because originally I think you were speaking of 4?
Yes, that was if we were.
If you can go back to the podium so people can hear you that are watching, thank you.
My apologies. If we were able to acquire the property north of us, the vacant lot, and the house just north of that, then it would be easier to do 4, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay.
So instead of having a stalemate, we're actually able to move forward with something.
Great, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for coming to Pontiac.
Thank you, Chris. Sue?
Just a couple general comments. Just hope to see the parking lot improved, striped. Obviously, you have a parking issue now. Might want to find out exactly who's parking there so it doesn't become a nuisance. And this does have a designation, Mike. I don't know if you're aware of it. It does say, I believe, Chrisman Apartments at the top in the limestone. But that's my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
No other questions or comments from me.
Okay, very good. I don't have anything either. Thank you for taking on this property. It looks like it had a lot of charm back in the day. I hope it still retains that. I'm sure if it's possible, you will make that happen. So I am ready for a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the proposed rezoning of 221 Baldwin Avenue North from R2 two-family dwelling to R3 multiple family dwelling based on the finding of facts identified in the staff report.
Support.
Commissioner Henley,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Sinclair,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Shepard,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Northcross,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner McGinnis,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Parlov.
Yes to approve.
Motion passes.
Congratulations. Okay, our next item is going to be public comment. So when we have public comment, you're free to share your thoughts with us. You'll have 3 minutes to do so. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. Once you're done speaking, we will request that you remain silent while you are in your chairs and this meeting continues. So I'm going to open, yes, Christopher.
During public comment, I learned at the city council meeting yesterday of the passing of Dane Thomas.
Thank
And
you
I
for
don't know
bringing
if
that
that
up.
was announced earlier.
Nothing had been said yet.
Okay. He was a long member of this commission and served as the president for a number of years of the Planning Commission. And I just wanted to note his passing and the wonderful service he gave to the community.
Absolutely, I second that. Go
If
ahead.
I could add to that, I only met him once, but I know he was a big, really staple of the GM Modern Housing neighborhood and really the redevelopment efforts that have been happening there and really, I think, really giving a gift for years to come for what it's done to that neighborhood. So,
Absolutely, and whenever he ran the meetings, there was always a story. He always had something that he could tie back into whomever was in front of us as petitioners, and it was great to hear that history. We've got a little bit of that with Mike, which I also appreciate, but Dane was the master, so he really, really cared about this community. He had left, he lived in Asia for a number of years, and he came back and lived in his childhood home, and that's where he spent the rest of his life, and so we were very honored to have him. So thank you, Dane, for everything. You are missed. So thank you for bringing that up as well, Christopher. I will go ahead and open public comment. If anyone would like to say anything, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Melanie Rutherford, and I just wanted to give you a friendly reminder that this Saturday we have a District 1 meeting at the Pontiac Creative Arts Center from 3 to 5. We hope to see you guys there, and also thank you guys for all you're doing. I just had to kill some time, so I wanted to say thank you for what y'all be doing. I know your job is not easy. Trust me, I know, and I appreciate all the things that you're trying to do to move the city forward, and I say this sincerely, and if you know me, you know I don't get up and say nothing unless I actually mean it. Okay, goodbye. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we are done with public comment. I'm going to close public comment. And we are now ready to go on to our new business. We have an application for ZMA 24-004. This is an informational session. It's for 339 South Paddock Street to rezone from R1 to M1.
So if I could set the table for this, Corey is going to be given the presentation. The city has met with the applicant. He has filed an application. I don't know that the city has all the information about the property, and Melanie, are you sticking around for a minute or two? I've got a question for you outside as soon as I'm finished, yeah. But what I wanted to say about this informational session tonight, we have not done staff analysis. This is really an opportunity. It really was requested by the applicant to speak with Planning Commission regarding the history of the property, potentially the geo-environmental stuff, and really it's a conversation to learn, is this a suitable zoning district, a suitable future land use for this property? So I really welcome the applicant and Planning Commission to have a fruitful dialogue tonight and provide feedback to each other. So Corey, I'll let you take it from there.
Uh-oh. Right when he leaves.
Of course.
All right, I'm going to do the presentation from over here.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, so come on.
You look like you're playing Price is Right with us. Come on down.
Boom. Okay. So this is a proposed rezoning of 339 South Paddock Street from R1 single-family residential to M1 light industrial. This is where we're at in the process. We are at informational session. We still have to schedule the public hearing. And then from there, City Council 2 readings. This gives you an idea of where the proposed property rezoning sits within our zoning map. You can see it's to the east of South Paddock Street. It's at the intersection of South Jesse and Osmond. And then I do want you to note that this parcel right here is zoned M1, just like these. It does not appear so in our map. We're working on fixing that, but it was rezoned in 2018. But as you can see, all that color, that's R1, and then there is an industrial district to the west. All right, so this gives you an idea of how it looks from above. So it's a completely green space parcel. There's no development on it. It sits just to the east of an existing industrial site. And then it's surrounded, well, to the south is a train right-of-way. There's no longer a railroad there, but that's why that right-of-way is there. And then all the smaller parcels, the narrower ones, are zoned R1 single family. This is what the property looks like looking south from Osmond Street. You can see it's overgrown and undeveloped. Same looking from the corner, and same looking from the south. So this parcel, like many in the area, is zoned R1 single family residential. The parcel is undeveloped, and there are no city records of any previous use. Aerial photography suggests the parcel was used for some type of industrial activity as recently as 1980. Imagery from the 80s and 60s show a large structure with dozens of trucks parked on site, but aerial photography starting in 1990 doesn't show anything. The applicant intends to expand their current vehicle storage operation, which is directly to the west. They're hoping to expand onto this parcel by constructing a 10,000 square foot building. The subject parcel is significantly larger than the other R1 parcels in the area and has frontage along a historic railroad right-of-way. The adjacent parcel is currently utilized for vehicle storage, and approval of this rezoning will allow the applicant to continue their existing operation and expand. And the introduction of M1 zoning does allow for several new high-intensity uses to the site that were not already permitted in the R1 district. So this goes over what is permitted in the R1 district. By right, automobile services, galleries, pet boarding facilities, places of assembly, unlimited outdoor retail, workshops, automobile service, light manufacturing, mini warehousing, movie and television production, research, industrial service and repair, non-toxic material storage, community service facilities, municipal uses, religious institutions, schools, private recreation, and a park. And then by special exception, sexually oriented businesses, heliports, general manufacturing, major outdoor storage, toxic materials storage, recycling, and cemeteries. And then the R1 district we went over with the last applicant. I think you have a pretty good understanding of what is and is not permitted in the R1 district, but it's primarily low intensity single family. And then I have the 10 standards for your reference if you need them. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, provide feedback to the applicant so that they can use that in preparing for their public hearing.
Very good. Thank you, Corey. Michael, do you have any questions for staff before we get into?
My questions will be primarily for the applicant.
Okay. How about for you, Tim? Anything right now? All right. Christopher, anything for staff right now?
No, just a note. My recollection, and this is a long time ago, I attended McConnell School for a year. And I remember on the site where the building with housing vehicles currently sits, right at the corner of, what is that, Paddock and Osmond, that was a concrete mixing plant, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I think next to it was, at that time, it was a hub used for trucking. Looked like you'd have freight coming and going, a freight trucking company. I think it was yellow truck or something like that. But yeah, just a note on that, what the background was. And they also had a railroad track, a multi-track railroad that went behind, that would have been to the south of the property, mm-hmm. where you had freight cars and other things being switched back and forth for the manufacturing operations, including GM, mm-hmm. that was in that area. Mm-hmm. So I guess my only concern is that the development, if it were to be changed to M1, that it would mirror what has already happened on that property at the corner of Osmond and Jesse, which I think was done very nicely. But just how do we ensure that that's what happens on the property on Osmond and Jesse? You know, the corner of Osmond and Jesse. That would be my only concern in changing the zoning from its current R1 to M1.
Okay, and thank you for channeling Dane for us with some of that history. We appreciate that. Thanks for your comments. Sue, anything right now for staff?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. Sam, anything?
Yeah, in the staff report, you said that in 2018 there was a rezoning.
Yep.
Could you provide some more context to that?
Yep, if my clicker was working.
Oh, okay.
That is on R1 on our maps. It was R1 at one point, but in 2018 it was rezoned to M1.
Okay, gotcha.
And we've got a GIS transition. When this comes forward to public hearing, that will be updated on our websites and stuff like that, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. That was my only question for staff. The rest are for the applicant.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions for staff, so if the applicant would approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Charles Cork.
Could you turn the microphone on, please?
You got it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Charles Corkum.
Great. I'm going to let you just share away. Tell us what's going on over there.
Yeah, so in 2018, we acquired the parcel 339 South Paddock from the Michigan State Land Bank. It was at the time, it was originally M1. At some point, it was changed to R1. And we had an offer to purchase with the state contingent upon having the property rezoned. The state had done a phase 1, phase 2 environmental. It was, heavily contaminated site, a couple underground storage tanks, and it wasn't in the cards that this site was going to be developed for R1 use. M1 was the former zoning for the site, and it was also the zoning that was required for vehicle storage. So at the time, there was, I think, a party store, Liston's Party Store was on the corner, and had been vacant maybe for 20 years, unsecured. And we came in, redeveloped that particular building. It's now a lounge area, wash bay that services the customers that lease space in the storage building. The current storage building holds 34 cars in the ground level. With lifts, we have the capacity of doubling that. Business has been good. We've, been turning away clients, and that gave us the inspiration to explore the possible expansion of Paddock. And so we're looking at, right now we don't own the property, and it's the same sort of situation with the current owners that I'd be willing to enter in with a purchase agreement and go through the due diligence if there is some likelihood that the city of Pontiac would have the property rezoned to M1 to allow the expansion.
Okay. Just curious, what's the square footage for the existing building?
The new building that was built is 12,000 square feet.
Okay, so this will be a little bit smaller.
A little bit smaller.
Okay. It's a beautiful building, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. It's purpose-built, plenty of room for the cars. It's climate-controlled, fire suppression. It's been a real win for both us and the customers.
Great. Well, it's definitely a nice change on that corner.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to pivot to Michael. Do you have questions for our applicant?
Good evening, and it's nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
The question for the applicant or staff, what's the acreage of the parcel?
I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
1.83.
Okay. And so it's of a different sort of, it's more squarey than rectangular-y, but slightly smaller than your current parcel. Would that be accurate to say?
Just a bit smaller. We're under 2 acres in our current parcel as well.
Okay. And you are the applicant petitioning for the rezoning. I just want to confirm with staff that, is there a requirement for standing in terms of ownership stake for that?
Through the rezoning process, there just needs to be something, an option to purchase contingent on a rezoning would be an example that they could apply for that rezoning. But we would need something from the property owner in order for this to move forward.
Okay. Does that reflect the current arrangement or a future forthcoming arrangement with the property owner?
Yeah, potentially. That's why this is kind of an informational dialogue.
Got it. Okay. Well, I can tell you as a city council person for the east side and representing the current facility that you've brought to life, as well as the subject parcel in question, I've never once had a resident or a neighbor have a contrary or adverse interaction with the current operation. Because obviously what our concern would be is M1 buffeted, right on R1, and we don't want to create something that's, clashing, that's creating this adverse scenario. What your vehicle storage, it's very beautiful. It's won a Pride and Beautification Award and is deserving of it from the city. That would be obviously very harmonious, sort of a continuation of that same use. I'll just share for the community's benefit, if there's any concerns, as we saw in a previous slide, there are many barometers that would require a special exception or an approval from the Planning Commission that would be likely a more intense use, that would be more problematic for, if you have your home and you opened up your windows or you stepped outside the door, that you wouldn't be too fond of seeing. So Mr. Christensen has brought that up here, but in terms of what's permitted by right versus what's permitted by special exception. So just doing a quick scan. But yeah, so I am very receptive to this use of M1 zoning. I think that would be a positive contribution. It would bring back a dormant parcel that's been dormant for generations now. And it's just a unique scenario to have a railroad that ran through a residential area, and then that railroad was lined on basically either side with industrial usage, because that was, they wanted access to that rail yard. So it leads to a lot of fascinating American history, Michigan history, and Pontiac history that was in those properties. And so if we did a little bit digging, we'd find out some really fascinating stuff, even early automotive and bicycle companies that were on Sanford at the train tracks there. And that's likely the case for some of these others. Obviously, you're just a few steps away from the standard vehicle company that's more Osmond and Woodward. But so it creates something that inherently will be something for us to contend with. We've had to contend with it for generations. We've got to contend with it now, and it's still going to be something to resolve. How do you harmoniously blend that past heavy industrial use to something that's more harmonious and compatible with the residential area? So I think what you've proposed fits the bill. The only concern we'll have is we want to make sure that for future uses, what comes beyond the Corcom era, hundreds of years from now. But I think that it's worked well so far. I think that it would work well, continuing, sort of make it more contiguous. And I would just flag that this would allow you with more real estate, literally, with more land, that you can get even more creative with, if necessary, landscaping, buffering, that allows some softening of that, that hard border of M1 to R1. So thank you very much for investing in Pontiac, investing in the east side, and doing it in a quality way.
Thank you very much.
And continue to, regardless of this or other developments, just keep communicating with the residents, and if I could be helpful with that, if there's any gaps that we need to bridge, because communication really can solve a lot of things.
Sure.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Michael. Go ahead, Tim.
I don't have a lot of comments other than what you've done looks great.
Thank you.
So if you're going to continue doing that, then we appreciate it.
Yeah, very much so.
Doing that. I think my question to staff is, let's say this gets approved and it doesn't go through, are we set where somebody could come in and put an auto repair shop in?
Well, and that's really depending on what application is before Planning Commission. I would be very supportive. I think it would help the applicant out getting City Council's approval to have a conditional rezoning where it might restrict uses. Right. You may be offering conditions of landscaping, maybe above and beyond. But there is a 2-year window that site needs to be approved and actually operating before that's in place. So I think you would want to take that under consideration, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just the use. Your condition may not be just the use that you're proposing. You may look at what would be permissible in M1 to see for future flexibility and really offer those conditions to the city, because as a rezoning, those have to come from the applicant per state law, not from the city. Now, if it was a site plan, that's different, but as a rezoning, those conditions need to be volunteered from you.
So it would revert back?
It would revert back after 2 years.
They don't develop it or?
Yep.
Okay, good. Other than that, everything looks great.
And just a corollary clarification, the parcel in which the vehicle storage is there, is our understanding, or if the applicant can share, was that just a straight-up rezoning, or was it a conditional rezoning?
A straight-up rezoning.
Okay. But thank you for asking that, because I think that kind of speaks to that concern about
Sure.
your use is solid and would not be contrary to the neighborhood, but if you were looking at some of those uses, there's a bit of pause there.
And you don't want certain things as your neighbors.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I mean, I have concerns what could be developed there too, sir.
Very good, thank you. All right, Christopher.
Again, thank you for the excellent job you did at the corner of Paddock and Osmond on your building there. And I too had that same concern
We
of
need to excuse.
what are the things we need to put in place to ensure that, you're able to replicate something of the same quality with the new building being put in place. And I hear some conditional rezoning, which is excellent. Pontiac is going through this resurgence where our densities are increasing, and densities of land use are increasing. And I'm not sure we're always up with our ordinances right now to ensure that the uses we put in place will be harmonious and in keeping with the existing residents and operations that are already there. And I'm glad it sounds like I'm glad to hear that you're, if I read you correctly, offer some upfront conditions that would help us ensure that occurs.
Certainly.
So wonderful, wonderful, good. I look forward to seeing that same type of development on this piece of property. One question, you mentioned an environmental study of that area. Did it include this property as well?
No, it did not. But, I did and have, going back to 2018, kind of look at the history of the use, both, for our existing 339 paddock in that particular parcel. And you have very good memory because, prior to the party store era, it was a concrete plant on that location. And before that, it was owned by General Motors. There was wood bending operations there. There was a cider operation there. I mean, it goes way back. And similarly, I don't have it at my disposal, but there was some pretty heavy industry and manufacturing going back to the turn of the last century on the former parcel. So I can only assume, that the environmental conditions, on that parcel aren't going to be too dissimilar to that which were discovered on our parcel. And I just think that, realistically speaking, the cost of remediation, and the configuration of that parcel would make the likelihood of that being developed in single-family residential slim to none in anybody's lifetime. And I think that, the use that we propose is, extremely low impact on the neighborhood. I mean, there are, weeks that go by where maybe, 4 people will come to Paddock Vehicle Storage. And, they're there looking at their cars or taking delivery on something. I think we've been good neighbors. We have an extremely good relationship with, all the homeowners on, Paddock, or on Osmond from Paddock to Jesse. And I think that the expansion of the facility would be good for the neighborhood.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Sue, anything?
No, everyone else has addressed my concerns. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sam?
No questions, but I'll keep my comments really brief because it sounds like you have a good operation going on and you haven't caused any issues to the surrounding neighbors. I will say though, recently in the city of Pontiac, we've had a couple instances where a manufacturing or industrial district has been causing severe impacts to surrounding residential area. And with a straight rezoning, that any use in the M1 zoning district could be carried through. I think your easiest way of getting this accomplished would be with that conditional rezoning. Specifically, I would give consideration to giving conditions, eliminating uses that you don't foresee being used on this parcel or in the future, and other considerations such as screening that Mike and Tim brought up, and just any way you can think of to mitigate any potential negative impacts from a manufacturing district being surrounded by residential parcels.
Certainly.
That's all my comments.
Great. Those are great comments. And it's interesting that you were saying that there was concrete crushing or whatever they were doing manufacturing, and there's houses right across the street. Can you imagine if that was where you lived? But it's a pretty magical site in a way over there because it's so open. And I believe the Healthy Pontiac, don't they have their garden in that area too? Is that right,
Yeah.
Mike?
There's an organization, it might be Growing Pontiac.
Growing Pontiac, great.
And then there's a mural that's been installed across the street from there.
Uh-huh.
And obviously Habitat for Humanity had facilities just west
Yep, and
of the
that's
subject.
changed.
And if I could add, there's also a long-term plan to convert that to a rail trail to connect over to Murphy Park from the bottom of the loop and what was the former railroad. But I would say that's not something to expect in the next 5 years. It's just a long-term. I believe the city has most of the ownership, city or county has most of the ownership of the former right-of-way.
Okay, great. So even with that being said, your intended use of that parcel, if you're able to secure it, certainly would be low impact if someone's on the trail, biking, running, whatever. So it sounds like it could be a great fit for your needs and also for what could be enjoyed by residents in the long run. So thinking about conditions and basically keeping it a quiet operation, I think is something that would be well received. So, and especially at that level of construction. Thank you for that.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate that overall. So does anyone have anything else? If not, thank you this
I just want
evening.
to flag, this is a great use of an informational session for you to gauge and kick the tires on. Is this something that would be receptive? It doesn't obligate or commit us, but it lets you come in at
Absolutely.
least with a better perspective from the planning commission. So I thank staff for.
Excellent. Especially on a night with 2 agenda items.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next item then is staff communications.
So first is really city council items. There is a public hearing scheduled for an appeal of the planning commission decision for the gas station special exception at 382 Franklin. That is scheduled for this Tuesday at 6 p.m. Here in council chambers. So they filed, the decision by this board was on June 5th. We received the application on June 14th, and then planning commission city council set the public hearing early in July, and we've sent a mailing out. So city council will be reviewing the exact same way planning commission has. This isn't necessarily like something in a circuit court, like they could remand it back. They will be deciding yes with conditions, no, or postponement. So I just wanted to share that with you.
And just to emphasize, that's next Tuesday, July 30th, towards the beginning of the council meeting. So that's a public hearing opportunity. And this is in our city's ordinances. It's the only action from city council, or the planning commission, where city council is the body that hears that versus the zoning board of appeals or a court of certain jurisdictions. So at least during my time on the city council, this is our first time getting an appeal of a special exception permit come to us. So.
Good to know.
Is that a question on the appeal?
Yes, it's a question about the law that, or the requirements that says that appeal could be filed. Was that from our city ordinance or was it from the state?
That is specifically from the city's zoning ordinance. And so that has been in
Okay.
place at least since 2012. It's unconfirmed prior to that, so.
Okay, I missed that, so yes,
Yep.
it's something that we have on the books. Okay, and I bring that up because I was asked that question about, is this something that the city council is just doing on their own?
No.
And I said, I don't think so. I think it has to do with some existing law. I thought maybe at the state level, but it's actually at the city level.
Yep.
And I'll do a search to confirm that. Thank you. I just wanted to put that out there in case someone's wondering.
Also, next Tuesday at City Council is the first reading for the former Purdue School rezoning at 25 South Sanford. So there will be a minimum of 2 readings, but the first one is planned for next Tuesday. I did want to share from the ZBA report, not necessarily all the items, but they did approve a use variance for a behavioral health facility at the former Circuit City and Value World, the entire building at 600 North Telegraph. So they got the variance. They still have to go through an internal zoning process. That will not be going to any board or commission because really they're making a few minor modifications to the site. Now, if something changes that is considered major, that would come to planning commission. But that use variance has been granted. It is a C4 district that doesn't allow every type of commercial office use. It's meant to be more for high traffic areas, your Dick's and Targets and Kohl's and stuff like that. But they did get an approval for that, and I just wanted to share that.
Does that mean Value World's going away?
I don't officially know that, but I would assume that if this moves forward, yes.
And can you explain what their intended use is? I've not heard this term before.
Behavioral health is really, it's a medical facility in our zoning ordinance, and really they have the ability to work with many different doctors and patients and stuff like that. So this is not something that's going to be like a hospital or anything like that. This is going to be really outpatient, really facility wraparound services. And I'd be happy to share within subcommittee in the future, you know, as we learn more about the use. So.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Good to know.
That's it for city council items. And Council President McGinnis, is there anything else to share with Planning Commission from City Council?
Please.
So we also have a public session and a resolution next week on the establishment of a neighborhood enterprise zone. So it isn't explicitly related to the Planning Commission, but it definitely impacts land use and economic development. It's a tool that this city hasn't utilized yet, but other cities have, to try and spur redevelopment, either new construction or rehabilitation of existing structures, converting it. And I believe it's really primarily for residential, not exclusively. But my understanding is that that's really what it would try and turbo boost is the hopes of new residential construction or residential conversion. And the limit is that it can't be more than X percentage of the city. So we're not making the whole city a neighborhood enterprise zone. It would be targeted areas based upon land that hasn't been redeveloped in a long time, or there hasn't been much interest to try and stimulate growth. But it definitely would impact, I think, many parts of the downtown or downtown adjacent areas. But that map will be shared in detail next week. And it's really just to have another tool in our economic development toolbox to spur further growth and attention for the city of Pontiac. On our city council meeting last night, we did vote to receive a grant of $30,000 from MEDC to help defray the expenses of the master plan update. So thank you to staff and others that made that possible. So that helps defray the professional services that McKenna Associates are partnering with the city's planning team. But they did also give an update on the master plan last night. Very well received by council, very informative about sort of the steps to come. And obviously, Planning Commission has received a lot of those updates as well. But I wanted to share that, and we did adopt a resolution honoring the life and service of Dane Thomas, who previously served as chair of the Pontiac Planning Commission. The shirt I wore tonight is one that Dane gave me that he had commissioned related to the car show that he helped pioneer in Oakland Park in his GM Modern Housing neighborhood. And the neighborhood is dedicating a car show in his honor on August 3rd. So I just wanted to amplify that. A really fascinating, amazing man that I have a lot of memories of attending planning commissions and watching him go. And he will not soon be forgotten, and he will be long missed in the city of Pontiac, and especially in the context of planning purposes.
Absolutely. Thank you for all that.
And if I could add on the NEZ, one area that you're familiar with the Planning Commission is all of the residential infill overlay districts are included in that NEZ. So really is an important tool to help, again, get the population back to those neighborhoods. So Next up on the agenda is 94 Dwight, or actually master plan, excuse me. So we had a wonderful presentation last night. We are in full mode working with both the McKenna and Associates, Elnora and Associates, who are the public engagement specialist, and then partly with Gibbs, who is they do a lot of data analysis. And Council President McGinnis said he actually grew up in Pontiac, so that's a nice little connection there. What I want to share with this commission is there's a scheduling issue, so we're moving the presentation to Planning Commission to August 7th, the next meeting. But for the public, there are 2 dates that I really want to present tonight, and it's very important to really get involved and get your input. There was a lot of great input at City Council last night from the public, and I hope they bring those conversations to these meetings to really make sure that the city as a whole is getting that input and buy-in to move forward. But August 12th, there's actually going to be a webinar really to kick this off and to share with people and view at your leisure like what's going on, and there may be some messages from some people involved in the process. August 28th is the first planned public engagement session. We're finalized. It'll be in the evening. I believe that is a Monday, if I have my dates correct. No, it's a Wednesday actually. So we're finalizing the venue, but we're also working with our communications team to really get our public engagement, to get the word out, not only through media, word of mouth, through the churches, through council districts and other stuff. So please encourage your neighbors, your friends, and your enemies to come. So, and I'm very excited to work with Planning Commission on this. And if you have any questions when you're going through the process, please let me know. There is a stakeholder group that has been formed. Mona Parlov and Chris Northcross are representing Planning Commission on that stakeholder group as well. Those rosters will be published probably by the end of the week, and we will have a dedicated website to this master plan process. They're in the process of creating that website right now. That's it on master plan. Are there any questions before I move on to the next one on that? No? Okay. 94 Dwight, the public hearing notice was not properly noticed for tonight's meeting. So the notice went out. I took pictures of the sign, and we're really being stringent. So this is being rescheduled for the August 7th meeting, and confirming that the sign is up and correct. As I mentioned last time, the Liberty parcel is not involved in the rezoning request. It's down to 3. But really, it's on the applicant to present to Planning Commission in a new public hearing because there's a new zoning district plan for, they're really going to be doing R3 for all 3 parcels. And I will save the rest of the discussion for the public hearing. So I just wanted to provide an update to Planning Commission and the community on that. And then finally, again, the next regularly scheduled meeting is on Wednesday, August 7th at 6 p.m. And I, just as a staff member, I know it's hard for us, but it's hard for you guys. But we really appreciate everyone coming out to a second meeting this month. I'm happy to report we only have 1 meeting in August. And I do also want to say, because I was out of the room, that Ms. Duvall, or Commissioner Duvall, unfortunately could not make it back to Pontiac just with some of the travel troubles. So she hopes to be at the next meeting. So, okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you for all that information. If anyone doesn't have anything else that they need to say, Christopher, please.
One item. Speaking of public hearings, is it possible to list upcoming public hearings for both the City Council and the Planning Commission on a website so that as they are set and they come up, there would be one place that the public could go to find out that public hearing is up and coming?
I can speak to the Planning Commission aspect. We're actually working to get to a regular process and solution. I expect that to be coming soon. We've been trying to do it, but I think the volume has been a little difficult. But for us, it's trying to get it in a way that we can get the notice on that website in an efficient manner. So I will definitely take that feedback, and hopefully we'll get that soon, and we'll report back once that process is up and running.
Very good. Thank you.
And hopefully the City Council could also contribute to that website as well. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think there's great value in that. I mean, there's just the volume of how much stuff is being considered and changes being made. It is, it's a bit jarring. And so we need to make sure that as much as possible, it can be shared and relayed for those that want to lean in to the parts that especially impact their neighborhoods. But of course, many of the decisions impact the whole city. But each week, there's always so much. And obviously, the Planning Commission is seeing it here as well. So we don't want to slow that down. We don't want to stifle that if it's, good for the city, but it is a high volume, and it means a high workload for the boards, commissions, and the city council.
If I can, hopefully this won't add that much to the workload for anyone. It'll basically be a posting of a public notice that would otherwise be put in a newspaper or something, and it would just be electronically posted into this site. And I'm finding more and more people are beginning to look at agendas and minutes and other things that are on the city website, which I think is good. It would be another way, too, of enhancing our ability to signal these public hearings are coming up, something other than trying to put a 52-cent stamp on something or whatever it is. But I think it falls in line with the posting of these large signs that we have on the property. I think it's the next step to also allow folks to understand what's coming to their communities. Okay.
Thank you for suggesting that. Very good. Anything else from anybody? Anybody? I wanted to say thank you for putting up the slide that says tonight is the public hearing, there's the readings. I think that's really helpful so people understand this is not the one and only. Mike's tried to help with that verbally. To have it in print, I think helps again. So thank you for taking those steps.
And would our attorney tonight would like to introduce himself at all or say anything here,
Good evening for everyone I haven't met. I believe Chris, you're the only one I haven't met, so pleasure, yes. But I'm Nick Castro. I'm new to the Kelly firm, about 8 weeks now.
Could you have your microphone on, please?
Good evening. Yes, Nick Castro. I'm new to the Kelly firm. It's been about 8 weeks since I joined the firm. Just diving head in, hit the ground running. I hope to, work a lot closer with you guys in the future. I've done a little bit with Mark already, but feel free to reach out to me. I'll pass along my cards so I can be reached. But tonight was a good intro meeting to the Planning Commission. So
and
pleasure to meet all of you.
We are still working with Morgan, so you will
That's
be seeing
correct.
her at future meetings as well.
She had a conflict, so I was just covering. Yep.
But I think the idea at the moment is both of them are going to be working and supporting just based on project-based or timing-based. So, we look forward to working with both of them.
That's right.
Excellent. We appreciate all the support. And thank you to our staff again tonight. You guys rock. Thank you. All right. So if there's anything else, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.